Welcome to KGPT's Wichita's Biz That Is. I'm Tim Witzman, president of the Wichita Independent Business Association, and today we have a longtime friend of mine, Emily Compton. Emily is the president and CEO of Goodwill Industries here, and she's currently the chair of the Nonprofit Chamber of Service, and in 2016 will be the chair of Wichita Independent Business Association.
Yes.
Now, let's begin just background, where you're from and a little bit about growing up, because I know nobody starts out thinking they want to be the head of a nonprofit.
That's right. I'm originally from Olathe, Kansas, so I've been a lifelong Kansan. Haven't always lived here, but consider Kansas home. And went to Kansas State University.
Good weekend.
Yes, very good weekend. And worked in political campaigns for a while, saw the light and got out, and came back to Wichita State to get a master's in public administration, and I've more or less been here since.
And that's where we met.
Yes.
She was a student.
Yes,
you
were one of my best professors.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yes.
The payments will arrive later for you, Emily. But so your focus originally was more the government and political.
Yes, it
Okay.
definitely was.
So what moved you from there into nonprofit?
I was with the city of Wichita, and I had a wonderful employer at the time who told me several months in advance that my position was being written out of the next year's budget. Mm-hmm. So I was familiar with Goodwill and had done some work for them. I was part of a grant program with the city, and they were one of the grantees, and so I did some work for them and ended up permanent job.
You know, I think at one time they didn't really focus on nonprofit in the Hugo Wall School, but now they do.
Yes, they do.
I don't think they did when you were in school.
No, they did not. I was the first class to get the MPA.
Okay, very good. So where did you take off to get started on this with Goodwill?
For Goodwill, I started as their director of development, fundraising, marketing, public relations, things like that.
Where?
In Wichita.
Oh, in
at
Wichita,
Goodwill.
okay.
Yeah. I remember one of the interview questions was, tell me about your experience raising money. And I said, oh, I've done that before, and I never raised a dime in my life.
Oh, my
but
goodness.
I turned out to be
a fake
successful.
resume on television.
Well, I didn't say that on the resume.
Okay, all right.
That was in the interview, you know. I needed a job.
But you didn't stay here.
No.
Okay, so take us
Goodwill
on that
Industries
journey.
International has a number of training programs for their staff. And if you want your own Goodwill to be a Goodwill executive, they have a special training program. It's like getting a master's in Goodwill Industries. So I participated in the program. It took about 2 years to complete. And it was with the understanding I moved to another agency. So I started a brand new Goodwill in Columbia, South Carolina, and that was a lot of fun. Got to build up the whole thing from nothing, and built that up to a $7 million operation. And then I applied to go to Beaumont, Texas, and ended up in Beaumont, Texas for several years, and then came to Wichita again.
Well, just let's give people a little more understanding of Goodwill. Goodwill started by a Methodist minister,
Yes.
just as the Salvation Army was. And the original intent of Goodwill?
Goodwill Industries started in 1902 by Reverend Edgar Helms, and he was a Methodist minister, just like what you said, and worked in Boston area. And at that time, our country was having a lot of immigrants come into the United States, especially on the East Coast there. So he worked in a what was considered a ghetto type of area, and people needed jobs. And so he went and took literally a burlap bag and went to the wealthy side of Boston, picked up all their leftovers, took them to the low-income part of Boston. They fixed those items, sold them, and that's what paid their wages and created jobs for people. And it's basically the same concept that Goodwill operates today. We collect donations from the general public. We don't repair things like what we used to, but we clean things up, put them in the stores, sell them, and that goes to create jobs and to pay the wages for not just the people in our stores, but for all of our mission services.
Well, I don't know if people realize, but some of the very best run nonprofits in the country are right here in Wichita, Kansas.
Yes.
One
yes,
of them being
indeed.
Goodwill.
Well, thank you.
And I'm not trying to slight others, but I just can't name everybody. But like the YMCA, I mean, it's a model
Stellar.
across the country. People come here from all over.
Stellar organization.
We're not only an entrepreneurial business town, but really, really good
Yes.
nonprofits.
Excellent nonprofits. Yeah.
Give me maybe a little on the evolution of Goodwill, from where it started with his initial, because like the Salvation Army has changed. He started out with the poorest of the poor, prostitutes and others, and it's evolved into something a little different.
The model was then duplicated in different cities across the United States, mostly in the Methodist Church, and up until the last 10 years, a lot of the executives who ran the Goodwills were Methodist ministers.
I didn't know that.
And it was part of their ministry was they would be loaned out as executives, and some of the ministers were there for 30, 40 years.
Has that changed now? Is there
Yes,
been
it has.
a cut?
Not a formal cut, but as our country has changed, if you accept any kind of government assistance or whatever, you almost have to lose any kind of religious affiliation that you have. So over the years, Goodwill Industries has lost that religious affiliation, and but we still have I think we have 2 Methodist ministers that still run two different Goodwills.
That's a good place for us to take a little break, and we'll be right back with more of Wichita's Biz That Is.